and welcome into the home office. I'm Craig D'Amico, and this is the latest edition of NEC Now. And today I'm pleased to be joined by an NEC women's basketball legend. She's the 2012 NEC Women's Basketball Player of the Year and a member of the 2010s All-Decade Team. We have former Sacred Heart pioneer Callan Taylor. Callan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And we see you're representing. You got the Sacred Heart jersey on there.
I do. Rep it. Feels good to put it back on.
I was gonna say, be honest. When was the last time you put on that jersey? Was it 8 years ago or?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's last game, I guess. And actually, I know pretty close to one of the coaches on the staff, and they sent it over to me. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Now, currently, Callan is an assistant coach for Manhattan, and they were riding a 5-game win streak. They were red hot rolling into their conference tournament when the sports world kind of stopped just about 2 months ago now. So, Callan, for the last 2 months since now in quarantine life, how are things going? How's quarantine treating you?
Yeah, it's as good as can be. I was fortunate that I actually got to go home for a good amount of time and spend some time with family again from Kansas. So being in New York, I don't get home often. And so that was really nice. I got to spend, some really quality time with my brother, my sister, my parents, and niece and nephew. So that was kind of the silver lining of all of this for me, was to get that, that quality time with them. And then just, we're just still recruiting and working and trying to build our program at Manhattan. So, but yeah, things are good. Try to stay active as much as possible, to stay sane. But
sure.
Yeah, just, trying to stay positive and productive and just take it one day at a time.
Well, it's good to hear that you're doing well and getting to get that silver lining, as you mentioned, and getting to spend time with the family. That's awesome. Let's go down memory lane a little bit and talk a little bit about your basketball journey. I'm sure it started there in Kansas. At what point do you remember, when you were young and first falling in love with the game of basketball? How did that come about?
Yeah, so when I was really young, I actually played up with my sister. My dad was the coach, and just kind of they needed an extra body, and so my dad just kind of threw me in, and I ended up being like one of the best players, or I guess so. He's like, wait a minute, okay. So then I became a regular, and my brother also played college basketball, and he was, a big reason why I got really into it. And we'd be out there in the driveway almost every night shooting and playing one-on-one. So he's a big reason why I got into playing and kind of really sparked that interest to playing college, seeing him, compete at that level. So that's kind of how it all started for me. And just really fell in love with it at an early age and loved watching it. I was a huge UConn fan growing up when they were in that, their dynasty. So I fell in love with it early, but definitely, my siblings and my dad was, really involved and, really pushed me to kind of work hard and reach my goals. So.
And I was going to ask about your family, because from what I've read, you come from a very athletic family. So growing up in that environment with all those athletes and in the family, how their support and they're kind of pushing you and working with you, how important do you think that was in those early stages of falling in love with basketball?
Yeah, absolutely. My sister was a professional ballerina, and she moved, away from home at a young age to pursue that. So just to see her determination and, will to be the best that she could really inspired me at a young age. And then my brother, again, was a 2-sport athlete in college. He played basketball and soccer. So to see him, reach that goal, which is amazing. And my mom was a dancer. My dad was a college tennis player and coach. So we all, I think, just have extremely hard work ethic. That's something, I've learned from both siblings and both parents. Just, if you put the work in and, and the determination, and it'll come, and you can reach your goals as much as you want.
Now coming from Kansas, how happy were you for this past winter, the Super Bowl, seeing the Kansas City Chiefs win it? Were you a big Chiefs fan growing up? Were you happy to see that?
Yeah, so I actually debated on whether to wear a Chiefs shirt or a Sacred Heart shirt because I'm pretty diehard fan. I actually, when they won it, I wore a different shirt every day, like to practice
Wow.
work, to kind of celebrate. But yeah, that was an amazing game in of itself to watch. But yeah, pretty proud. You know
Did
that
you get to go into any games at Arrowhead when you were younger?
I did. Yeah, I've gone to a few. And I think the last one I went to was when I was in overseas. I think I was home around Christmas time, and I went to
Oh,
one
wow.
the day after Christmas. So, yeah, I mean, we're pretty diehard fans in Kansas City. It's, we don't have an NBA team, so football is pretty big deal. So, it was fun to watch the parade and see everybody kind of, gather around downtown. And it's just interesting how the timing, I'm glad, they got to have that celebration before kind of all this struck. So
It's true. I mean, when you think about it, before all that, it was a pretty good winter. You were on the named to the All-Decade team. Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Manhattan was heating up, going to the conference tournament. So, it was a pretty good couple months there in January and February for you.
yeah, I was like, okay, 2020 is the year. Let's do this. And it still could be,
It still could be. You're right.
people
Positive.
are like, oh, say bad things about 20. I'm like, there's still a lot of year left. Like I'm staying positive and good things are coming. But yeah, we were playing our best basketball going into March, and it was unfortunate the way the season ended. And in the moment, you kind of are like, can we just play? Like, let's just play one game. It can't be that serious. And
Right.
looking back now, obviously it was the right decision, but definitely hard when you work towards something the whole year, and then it's just kind of ripped away. So that was tough, but hopefully it's just motivation for our girls next year to come back even more hungry and motivated.
Now for you, playing high school, in there in the Midwest, ironically, you were recruited by the person who's now your boss, Coach Foolin, helped recruit you. She was on the Sacred Heart staff in the late 2000s, and she helped bring you to Connecticut. So talk a little bit about that dynamic and how you went from Kansas to Connecticut and how important she was in that journey.
Yeah, so when I was kind of doing the college search, I wanted to get out of the Midwest. I just wanted to experience something new, a different part of the country. So I was looking at a lot of schools on the East Coast and in the South. So when Sacred Heart reached out and Heather reached out, it was really intriguing. And that's one thing I've learned from her working for her is she's a persistent recruiter, and she's a great recruiter. And it's something that's helped me, now as a coach when I'm recruiting. But yeah, and she's just so genuine in the whole relationship. I think it just goes to show that, I didn't even get to play for her, and we still kind of kept that relationship, and she kept in touch and would check in, and
And
always.
that paid off years later, right?
And then I was overseas, and I was finishing up my 4th season, and I was like, I think I want to start a career, get into something more long term. I would love to play basketball for the rest of my life, but that's just not realistic. So I thought about maybe getting into coaching and seeing if I could, go that route. So I actually reached out to her and a couple other coaches I had stayed connected with, and just seeing if they knew of any openings or anything. And she was actually up for the head job in Manhattan. So she's,
Wow.
if I get this head job, I would love to have you on my staff. So the timing was just, meant to be, and it all worked out really well. So I when I got back from being overseas, decided to come out to New York and join the staff. So
I want to get more into coming into a coach, and you're especially in this environment, working as a coach in basketball. I want to get to that later on, but first I want to go to that 2009 team, because your freshman year at Sacred Heart, may have been one of the greatest women's basketball teams in NEC history. 25 wins, 18-0, the fourth team in NEC women's basketball to run the table in the regular season, then win the conference tournament. And that team was loaded. Cosgrove, Sawinski, a young Elisa Appo in her sophomore year, yourself, obviously. What are some of the memories? What are some of the things that come to mind when you think back of that team?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little spoiled coming in, and again having teammates so great like Elisa and Maggie and Caitlin, and you know, the upperclassmen that year were such good leaders. You know, Steph Ryan was a senior that year and battled through some injuries, and Kalia Kane was a great senior, and it was just, I think the leadership that year was so strong. Playing with those girls, it was so fun. It made my freshman year obviously a lot easier. But it was fun to come in and get to start and kind of be, you know, an impact player right off the bat. And I mean, going undefeated in the conference, it was awesome. And have every game, it was like, okay, it meant something. And it was, you know, we finally got to the point where like, all right, we're not going to lose. And, you know, we had a chip on our shoulder, and, you know, going into the NCAA tournament, we made a run at Ohio State, and
You had a big game against Ohio State too.
Yeah, it's like such a blur now looking back. I think I blacked out. I don't even like remember.
Well, I would imagine as a freshman, you probably, you know, had no idea, you know, what you were getting into.
Yeah, I don't know if I just, maybe that's the naivety of it all, just not like, oh yeah, here we go, we'll play Ohio State, you know. Maybe, I don't know if that was helpful. I just kind of was like, you know, we have nothing to lose, let's go. And that was to be able to give them a run for their money and play in front of that sold out crowd. That was an awesome experience, and yeah, definitely a highlight of my 4 years at Sacred Heart.
How difficult is it? Because, you know, we have a team like here in the NEC now, Robert Morris, that have made runs at 18-0. They've gotten deep, like 13-0, you know, 14-0. They've gotten deep into the season. When you have that target on your back and everybody sees that 0 in the loss column and everybody's coming for you, for someone who's been there and has completed the task, how difficult is that to go 18-0 in conference play?
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, it's everyone is ready to give you their best game, and they're going to do everything they can, throw out every type of, you know, defense or offense to try to beat you. And I think, again, just the leadership and the veteran group that we had just really showed us that, okay, we can do this, and just to go in every night with confidence. And even when things got tough and maybe we'd be down a little bit, you know, that group would be like, hey, no, like this, listen, we come together, this is what we got. Maybe it was a huddle, or maybe it was a timeout that really, you know, changed the course of the game. But I just think the leadership was awesome. And it was, it's definitely difficult though. And, you know, I remember there were some really close games that year that, you know, that almost didn't make it an undefeated season. But it's just, I think we finally just had a groove, and we just knew what it took and did it every night.
Now you bookended your career. You won it as a freshman, and then as a senior, you won it again. You know, in the middle was still pretty good. You won a rebounding title and a couple of all conferences. But that senior year, 2012, you capped it off with another championship win. And you know, that was a loaded team too. When you look at it, you were obviously the veteran, but you had Katie Shepard, who was a solid guard. She went into coaching now, and Gabby Washington, who developed into a big time scorer. Hannah Kimmel was injured, but she was on the roster, another all-decade performer. So, you know, that team was loaded too. What are some of your memories about that 2012 team?
Yeah, that team, I think, you know, it definitely wasn't an easy road, and we just had a lot of people step up that year. I just remember like Alexis Campbell was a senior, and she, you know, defensively was, you know, our defensive stopper and would hit big shots at big times and big moments. Gabby really stepped up as a freshman. So that's something that I remember is just we had a lot of people that were kind of under the radar, or maybe not so much in the spotlight, like Elisa and Caitlin, just step up and just really, when we needed them most, really shine. So that was an awesome year just because of that reason. I think just because seeing the just the team chemistry and everyone just kind of fulfill their role, and they knew their role and did it to their best ability. And yeah, we weren't perfect, but we just stepped up at the right time. And that was, I was something that was a goal of mine going into that year. Like I want to leave here with another tournament championship and go to the dance one more time. And I remember I wrote on a note card, like, I want to be player of the year. And so
you checked off all those goals. You were able to get all of them.
So that was a special year, just for that reason too, just to kind of end, there's no better way to leave your school after 4 years than, on a championship win and going to the NCAA tournament.
I want to take you real quick into my moment, because I was at that championship game that year against Monmouth, and I vividly remember, I can't remember specifically the play, but it was at the basket closest to the entrance of the pit center, and you got hit. I don't know if you were going for a rebound or if you were driving the basket, but someone on the other team hit you, and I could read your lips. You let out some words that I'm not going to repeat, but like I saw you fired up, and I'm like, ooh, because I don't remember you being like an emotional, fiery, rah-rah type of player, but in that moment you were, and I looked at that and I said, ooh, Monmouth is in trouble today, and they were, because you didn't let up on them. Do you remember kind of getting ever like so emotional, or were you more like a lead by example type player, or how would you kind of define yourself in that regard?
Yeah, I was definitely a lead by example. I think I was one that always put in the extra work, and girls and teammates noticed that and followed along, or I tried to give it everything I had every practice. I was going to win every sprint, or I was going to my team was going to win every drill. So I think that was primarily how I led, and I think my vocal leadership got better over the years. But if you would even ask my staff now, like I'm known as more of the calm, cool, and collected one on the bench. I'll bring our players aside and just like talk to them. This is what we need you to do and clarify. I'm more of the calm, but I think that was something I was known for as a player. Like I didn't really let things get to me. I didn't get too high or too low. Like I was always just kind of like steady and consistent. So I think that tournament though, I just remember wanting it so bad, and I'm extremely competitive. So don't get me wrong. Like even
absolutely.
I think a lot of times people are fooled. They think they're fooled by how like sweet and quiet I am. But at the end of the day, like I want to win more than anything. So, and when we jump in practice now or we do drills and we're winning, like my team's winning, or I'm winning the competition or the shooting drill. So yeah, don't get that mistaken. I'm still very competitive, and I just remember that championship, like wanting it as a senior so bad that I was going to do whatever it took, for sure.
Well, that definitely came through. A mission accomplished on that. You guys certainly got that. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if we were going to play some, like a fantasy basketball game, the 2009 team versus the 2012 team, maybe you're like switching jerseys like in the middle of the game going, I don't know how we would do that, but how do you think those two teams would match up?
Yeah, someone actually asked me that before, and I still think it would be a great matchup. I think I did ask. I was like, well, which team am I on? But I think it would be a great matchup. I just that 09 team I think would come out on top. They're just tough, and they're just some really talented players. And again, I just think at the end of the day that senior group, there was just that core was so strong. That leadership just really took us over the top.
When you have a 0 in the loss column, it's hard to go against that, even 11 years later. I want to talk about Ed Swanson. It was, again, continued to be a great winter. He was named to the NEC Hall of Fame this past winter. What were some of the things that you learned from him that maybe you've now taken with you into your coaching career?
Yeah, oh, Swanee. He was a lot of fun to play for. You know, intense, but all head coaches are, and but no, I think he just was really kind of upfront and always just, was very clear in his expectations, and there was no like, well, I don't really know what he wants from me or what to expect. It's like you knew your role, you knew what you needed to work on, you knew like where what you did great. So I just think how he was always communicating with us. He'd bring you into his office and say, hey, listen, Callan, like I need you to work on this, or I need you to be more vocal in practice or something. It was just always the constant communication, and just not leaving anything to a question or uncertain. So that's something that I try to do with our players too, and just make sure everything's clear. And I think our whole staff does a great job of that. We're not going to sugarcoat anything, or we're just going to tell like it is, and this is what you need to do if you need to get more playing time or whatever the case may be. So that's something that definitely sticks out in terms of Swanee. And he was intense on the court, but off the court he was very, very personal and fun.
Yeah.
He'd joke around and he'd laugh with you, and maybe poke a joke. So that I think that too. I think having a good balance is nice. Especially from the head coach, just for them, to feel like you can relate a little bit and feel a little more comfortable around them, and not like, oh gosh, the head coach. So that's something too, that those are some things that I tried to remember and put into my coaching.
I don't know if you know this, or even if you do, I don't know if you could spill the secret, but do you have any idea the hair care products that he uses? Because he has a Hall of Fame head of hair as well. I don't know if you have any insight on that.
I do not. I think that was a 4-year kind of something we were trying to figure out. But I think it just might be the amount of times he like put his hand through it. Maybe that's what created the volume. But yeah, I'm not.
See, I don't have that kind of luxury, so unfortunately, I won't be able to take advantage of that. I want to talk about the All-Decade team. Obviously, a huge honor, especially since your freshman year didn't count. It wasn't even in this decade, and then the 3 years were way at the beginning. So your body of work certainly stood the test of time over the course of the 7 years after that. How special was that for you to hear that announcement this past winter that you were named to the All-Decade team?
Yeah, it was an awesome, honor. I remember we were on a road trip, and I was on Twitter, and I saw the men had they announced their All-Decade team, and I was like, that is so cool. Like, I love how the NEC, like, they do such a good job on social media and trying to, interact with alums and just keep everyone, connected. And I remember I actually was sitting with a couple other assistants, and I was like, gosh, I hope they do one for the women. And I remember telling them, like, I'm going to be mad if I don't make this. My competitiveness.
There's like, competitive Callan again. Yeah.
So they all started laughing, and I read further that they were going to announce it a few weeks later. So when it came out, again, I was really honored and humbled, because there's been some really amazing players, over the years in this league. But just to see the recognition from other coaches and people in the NEC is just awesome to kind of see. That was something too. And when I first got to Sacred Heart, I was like, I just want to leave a legacy. I want to, I wasn't ever like, okay, I want to break records and do all this. I was like, I want to leave a legacy. I want people to like remember my name, and, and have that be a positive thing. So that was definitely an awesome honor for sure.
And we saw on social media the next day at practice, you were bombarded with autograph requests from some of your players.
Yes, Coach, and that's something about Coach Moon. Like, she doesn't ever do anything like, subpar. It's like, it is to the top. Like, she's gonna go all out, all or nothing, and that's something I absolutely admire. And So she printed out those pictures and had the girls kind of surprise me at the end of practice and ask for my autograph. So it was pretty funny. They're always making jokes, about like, oh, Callan, you're such a legend or whatever. And again, me being like, I try to be humble and kind of, I was like, it was a cool moment to see them all just kind of surround me and ask for my autograph.
Certainly well deserved, though. As you said, your body of work spoke for itself. It certainly stood the test of time over the course of the decade. So well deserved honor for you. And after that, as you mentioned earlier, you had the opportunity to go play professionally overseas and get that experience. So what was that experience like, getting to travel overseas and play in a bunch of different countries?
Yeah, I mean, that was some of the best, experiences I've had, and it was an awesome 4 years. I got to travel to so many different countries and experience different cultures, learn another language, and get paid to play basketball. So it was an experience. I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to do that, and glad I decided to. I know after my senior year I was kind of on the fence, like, oh, do I I actually was thinking about going to physical therapy school. That was kind of another reason why I chose Sacred Heart. They have a really good,
Great program.
physical therapy, and
Absolutely.
got accepted into that program and was like, gosh, do I do that? And then I started getting this interest to play overseas, and I was like, well, you can always come back and go to school, but you can't always, go play basketball, and that's eventually gonna either be too old or whatever. So I decided to take that opportunity, and best decision I made, because I made some lifelong relationships, and just the experiences are, to be able to live in some of the cities that I did, that's where people would die to vacation. So
Absolutely.
To get to pay to live there and play basketball was an awesome experience for sure.
What were some of the best dishes? What was some of the best food that you had while you were traveling and playing around the world?
So I lived and played in Spain for 2 years, and they had some really good cuisine there. I know they have the paella is like the rice dish, and it's in kind of like a skillet, and that was very tasty. Portugal, I played there for a year. They had amazing food, amazing like seafood, being right there on the ocean. So those were definitely two that kind of stood out to me, and of course the wines were great over there too. But they're every country. That was something too I loved about it, was getting to just try different new things. I played in Australia, and I got to try like crocodile and
wow. How was the crocodile?
Kangaroo meat and stuff. So
wow.
It kind of just, they always say like it actually did kind of taste like chicken. But and then I played in Finland for a year, and I got to try like reindeer and just.
You ate Rudolph? Oh my gosh, Callan, come on.
That was just a cool experience in of itself, was just to try the different cuisines for sure.
Now, you talked about it a little bit earlier, transition from playing and the opportunity to come into coaching. As an assistant coach, you actually a couple of years ago had a chance to play against Sacred Heart. And I think one of those games you actually got to go back to the Pitt Center. What were some of those memories? Were there any mixed feelings of having to go up against the old team? What was that like?
Yeah, definitely. It was, when we played at the Pitt Center, it was one of the first times I had been back there in, a really long time. So just walking into the gym brought back so many memories. And then I just remember sitting on the opponent side, those benches, like I'd never done that. So that felt weird. But it was different for sure, but cool to be back there, and just all the memories just kind of, just flood over, and the nostalgia was just cool to reminisce and see some past, faces that I'd seen around campus. So definitely cool to be back. And I mean, that campus is just exploding. It's
It's
so
so different, right? There's like new buildings popping up all over the place.
yeah, every time I go back, it's like a new dorm or a new building. So yeah, good for them. It makes you feel good, like a proud alum, when you see that, for sure.
Proud alum, but at the same time, upset at Catherine Haynes for all that she did against you guys in those two games. She had some pretty good again. I think a double in one of them.
Yeah.
So when you're in this current situation that we're in, we talked a little bit about it earlier. Maybe you could let the audience in. What are some of the challenges now, from home, not being able to go out and have a normal off season in coaching? How is all this different from a usual off season right now?
Yeah, so the spring and summer is a heavy recruiting time. So that's first the spring, that's a time where we would have recruits come on and visit the campus and show them around, get to know them, have them get to know us. So not having that time, and then the summer recruiting, to evaluate some more kids, that's definitely difficult. But we do a lot of Zoom, or FaceTime with recruits, but also just from our own team, like we love player development. Like that's something that we put a lot of focus in, and Coach Voolen gives us a lot of ownership with kind of our position groups. So I work with the post players now, and just not to be able to have a postseason and work with them, and try to get them better, and maybe not have a summer to work with them even more. That's not fun for us. That's kind of the best part of our job, is just to get in the gym with our girls and work with them. So just trying to be creative on how we now do that kind of play development, whether it's hey, let's read this together, or let's watch this film, or I'm going to send you some clips, or we're going to do something virtually. So we just have to now be creative and try to exhaust all different outlets and and things. But it is what it is. But yeah, I can't wait till we can get back in the gym with our girls, and I just miss them and miss their faces. Like we spend, as a Division I athlete, program, you spend a lot of time together. So it was weird for the first couple of weeks and months, not even, not getting to see their faces or be around them. So I'll definitely be excited to get back in the gym with our team.
I think we're all in the same boat. We're all can't wait. we're all going to be so excited to get you guys back out there. And I guess, just to bring it to a close here, what does the future hold for you? Obviously, the immediate future is getting ready for whenever the next season is. But, down the road, staying in the coaching ranks, working up the coaching ladder, is that something that you have your eyes on, or another area?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I'm so committed to this program and Manhattan, and really just want to see it flourish and reach its potential. And I think, we've got some great years ahead of us. I think, this year obviously again was a bummer how it ended, but I think we're going to even come back even stronger next year and the years to come. So I'm excited just to help to continue this program build, and get to the top where I think we can get to. So that's kind of my my immediate goal. And yeah, I'm someone that just kind of takes it one day and one week at a time. I don't try to get too ahead of myself, but yeah, I definitely just, I love coaching. I love what I do, and just staying in it, and wherever that leads me, we'll see.
Well, certainly you wear the green for Manhattan right now, but as you see from her jersey, she still bleeds the Sacred Heart red at heart. So, Callan, thank you so much for taking a few minutes spending with us today, and best of luck in the future.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This was great.
That was Callan Taylor. I'm Craig D'Amico, and this has been NEC Now.